Good evening, hello, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm greeting you from Johannesburg, South Africa, where I've been spending 6 weeks with my family. And unfortunately, my trip is coming to an end, and I'm going back to freezing cold Europe tomorrow. But it has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. And because some of you maybe do not know the Pass It On network, let me just simply say very quickly that we are a global network, and we're very proud to have people representing us in 65 different countries around the world. And we have, I'm in fact not going to go into much detail once at all, because we're going to be telling you what we've been doing over the last 12 months, and that will come out. So please just know that you are so welcome, and that we look forward to going forward with you, because we feel that this is a time in the history of mankind where we really need to collaborate, work together, and join forces. So, Osnes, how are we going to proceed now?
Well, I think it's very simple. We're going to we prepare this wonderful PowerPoint presentation with pictures and all the things that we've gone through in 2024. Moira is going to narrate it, and we're going to also have a hint of what's happening, what will be happening in 2025, and then we're going to put our heads together and say what should Pass It On Network be and do in 2025 and beyond. So I'm going to share the screen, and it will be over to you, Moira, in just a minute.
Thank you. Right, here we go, almost. So here we are, standing at the end of one year and already one big foot into the next year. And at Pass It On Network, we've taken the habit of looking back and looking forward to try to see what we have done in the past and whether it's been impactful and useful, and seeing how we can learn and go forward into the future. So Pass It On Network stands today it's going into its 15th year already. I can't believe that. And I'm just so happy, and I must just say this because it's just such a pleasure. When Jan and I launched the Pass It On Network in Paris in 2013, we had Dieter with us from Switzerland. And I think that Linda Smith, who's in Thailand at the moment, is also going to be joining us. So it's just such a pleasure to see these people staying with us and being with us and growing with us. Now, what we've been doing this last year is to carry on with our ongoing communication program. In other words, we have a Global Pioneer Gazette, and the Global Pioneer Gazette comes out more or less every 2 months. And I think I'll mention the African Pioneer Gazette at a later stage, because this is what we've been doing in this year now, 2024. We've run our regular global open house meetings once a month, one for the Americas, Europe, and Africa, and another one for Asia and Australasia. And this gives us a really wonderful opportunity to speak to people from around the world who are keen to find out who we are and what we are doing, and to see how they could possibly link up with us or introduce us to their own organizations. So that's a very interesting function that we carry on every single month. And we can move on now. So one of our main communication functions is our 50/50 webinars. And we have these, as you well know, once a month. And we invite everybody to join us. So in 2024, we had one a month. We started off in January with a fabulous presentation by Dr. Cameron Camp on the whole approach, using the Montessori approach as a pathway to empowerment for people suffering from dementia. And then in February, we did what we're doing today. We had a look at what we had done so far, and we looked into 2024 and decided what our collective it could look like, because our name is the Pass It On Network. So what is the it? And the it, we have discovered, is a very individual thing that belongs to each person and how they see their activity. Then in March, we had Adrian Berg, a really wonderful, dynamic person who works at the United Nations as well with the New York Committee on Aging. And she also has a very wonderful website that she has created, and that's all about traveling. And she emphasizes the whole thing about volunteering experiences. And it was a very dynamic and opening session with Adrian. In April, we went on to Margaret Young, Famada, Vijay, Nairudu from Mauritius, and pioneers everywhere who got involved in the rally for the human rights of older people. In May, we were very happy to welcome Dr. Paul Ward of Too Young to Retire, who just released his new book, which was New Life, Living Consciously. And that was extremely well attended. In June 2024, we had Janine van den Berg with us. And it was so interesting because Janine went really right down into the nitty-gritty of how we can use our force and to advocate for people. And you know, Janine's specific speciality is reforming the workplace in terms of ageist policies. And she's done a wonderful job and continues to do a wonderful job. In July, we looked at something that concerns a whole lot of people, myself included. We had Sarah Zef Gerbert, who was with us, and she spoke about the whole issue of solo aging, the challenges and the triumphs in the graying world. And then in August, we had a review to find out how we were doing. Were we on track? Were we doing what we said we would be doing? In September, we had Barbara Greenspan Scheiman and Joyce Cohen, who gave us such a wonderful presentation about harnessing the power of purpose and how they're doing that in an intergenerational fashion and how they're touching the lives of younger people in a very impactful way. And in October, we had our Pass It On Network survey. And this was so fascinating because Osnat, myself went down to visit Jan Hively, our co-founder, in Portland, Oregon. And as we were sitting there, we realized that we were, in fact, 3 generations of older people. We had Osnat the younger, Moira the middling, and Jan on the older scale. So we decided it would be very interesting to do a survey, and we sent that out, and the results were very interesting, in fact. And then in December, we had Famad Shaman, straight back from a wonderful trip that she did in India, where she participated in 3 major events. So she almost literally got off the aeroplane and then did our Pass It On Network 50-50 session in December and shared what she had learned in India. And this month in January, excuse me, we're busy doing right now what we've done previously, looking back and looking forward, and what our collective it could look like in 2025. So in 2024, we started 2 partnerships and collaborations. The one was with the International Longevity Centre in the UK. And as of February, Pion has become one of the ILC's global collaborators. And we started with a webinar. We invited the ILC to come to a meeting of our Pass It On Network, Southern African Regional Network. And there they presented the wonderful work that they have been doing on the Global Healthy Aging and Prevention Index, which can be found on the internet, and it's an extremely valuable document or work for anybody like ourselves engaged in this particular field, because it does give you a basis for comparing what's happening in the different countries that are featured in the index. And then we also got involved, well, not involved, but a little bit more formally involved with ACAP, which is the Active Aging Consortium in Asia Pacific. And we are now formally collaborators. And we held our first webinar with them in August 2024 with the Southern African Regional Network. And I must just mention there, if I can, that ACAP is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. And in March, there's going to be a really big conference in Fukuoka in Japan. And I'm really hoping to be able to attend, because what's so interesting about Japan is that this country, as we all know, is the oldest country in the whole world. And they're forced to make very, very interesting policies in terms of managing their elderly population. So during this year, we've had many conferences. In February, we did a big project, a big European project with the Old Up organization in France, and we were all part of a 15-country European project, intergenerational project, the object of which was to encourage people to vote in the June European elections. In May, Pass It On Network went to Albania to attend the EURAG Council meeting, and it so happened that the meeting took place exactly at the same time as the ending of the 14th and final session of the United Nations Open-Ended Working Group on Aging, and we were able to present the results of that. Excuse me. In June, we were in Belgium with the Age Platform Europe. And in August, as I mentioned, we had the ACAP Pass It On Network webinar addressing aging issues in Southern Africa. And then we've done, just amongst other things, we were in Cannes in September, and there Adrian Berg was with us. It was the Silver Echo and Aging Well International Festival, and Pass It On Network, which has been involved in this festival for a number of years, was part of the judging team for the international participants. And then Adrian, myself, and two other people participated in a very interesting panel on the role of older citizens in European and international policies. And then once again back to Brussels in October at the Economic and Social Committee, where I presented what we had done in the intergenerational operation that we did at the beginning of the year. And then in December, we all got involved with the Human Rights Day. Margaret Young led the dance, and she has created an e-book and interviews with 10 different advocates for the rights of older people around the world, including Vijay Narodu from Mauritius, myself, and Francis Enodin from the United States. And then in December, there were several Pass It On Network people who presented their congratulations to the very interesting partnership between INEA, which is the United Nations organization in Malta, for the promotion of training of people in the longevity field, especially in the caring field, and especially in the developing countries. And they have a partnership with the Dave Omakara Foundation in Nigeria, which is running their satellite center for Southern Sahara. So we were very interested to be there, and we all made a congratulatory speech, which was presented and televised at the United Nations. And then, so the other trips included then in February, and this is a very sad note because I went to to Oxford in February for the memorial service of our dear friend Tom Holloway. Sorry, this is in South Africa. We have these alarms from time to time. It stopped. Um, Tom Holloway was a particularly wonderful person who helped the Pass It On network considerably. He helped us. He helped introduce the University of the Third Age in Nigeria, in Uganda, in Botswana, in Zimbabwe, and he created websites for all of these countries. And we also started WhatsApp groups that were promoting the whole notion of the University of the Third Age. A really incredible contribution that Tom Holloway made, and we were very happy to be there and to participate in that memorial service. And then in July and in August, as I mentioned earlier, I went to Seattle, met OSNAT, and then down to Portland, Oregon, where we visited with Jan Hively, our co-founder, and we met also with Jay Bloom, who is the creator of Bloom Anew. So what we can also highlight, and this is in no way exhaustive, but what pioneers around the world have been doing in 2024. So we can mention, for starters, our wonderful Helen Hirsch Spence. And Helen Hirsch is the founder of Top 60 Over 60 and leads Canada's Age Space. And she did a wonderful TED Talk, which was greatly applauded and is now being watched over and over and over and over again. So that was Helen Hirsch Spence. And then we've got another extraordinary woman down in Australia, on the western coast of Australia, around Perth. And her name is Sheena Edwards. And Sheena created something called Switched On Seniors. And she received for her organization the 2024 Award for Digital Inclusion. And what's so interesting about what Sheena does is that she's helped people, hundreds of people, learn to use their iPads, and she does it with seniors. The senior learns and then they teach, and so it goes. And it's a very productive and wonderful organization that is stimulating for the people who are involved and very effective for all those who are learning how to use their iPads. So that's Switched On Seniors in Australia. And then we can go to South Africa and congratulate Linda Smith, who's the CEO of 50 Plus Skills and the Refinement Network. And she received the 2024 Healthy Futures South Africa Accelerator Award for creating transformative solutions in South Africa through intergenerational skills matching. And what's so fabulous about this is that it was basically an award that was targeted for younger people. And Linda brought in her organization, and she managed to carry off, I think it was second prize, but she got a very healthy check, which will help her build her organization. And she got this check because she's developed a very special system, an ecosystem which develops and concentrates on collaboration. And we were so impressed with this that we've invited her to come and lead our next 50/50 in February, and she's agreed. So you must come along to that because it's going to be a really hands-on approach to how we can build community and increase our impact individually and collectively. And then we've got, I must just mention this, we've got the AgeWell Foundation in India that is run by Himanshu Rath, and he created it in 1999, so it's now running into its 25th year. And this organization helps more than 20,000 people a day, every single day, through a wonderful network of volunteers. And I think we need to congratulate them because they just keep on and are doing an extraordinary job. And then we've got so many, let's just shine some shining lights on some of the people. And I repeat, this is totally not exhaustive because if we did, we keep you here all night. We've had Paulette Metang from Akamaj in Cameroon, and she's now recently been elected to the steering committee of the Global Alliance for the Rights of Older People. Famada Shaman, who's the CEO of TEFTA in South Africa. She's a strong pioneer for us in Southern Africa, as well as being on the board of Common Age, which is the aging organization for the Commonwealth. And then we've got Maleba Mokena, Megan Matufa, and then Vijay Nairaidu in Mauritius, who does, he's tireless. He's just very, 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 very active for the rights of older people. And now this is where we're going to ask you to think while I'm talking of what else we can be doing. So in February, as I've already mentioned, we're going to be looking at Linda Smith's flywheel ecosystem. In March, we're going to, I hope, be able to go to the ACAP 20th anniversary in Fukuoka, Japan, and visit the Jito Islands to see their advanced aging laboratory in real life. In URAG, in April, there'll be a URAG council meeting in Latvia. In September, the 17th IFA conference in Cape Town, South Africa. And there we hope that our Southern African group will play a very strong role. In October, it's the International Older People's Day and the URAG conference in Paris, France. And in December, of course, we have the Human Rights Day. So now we need to also talk about the nuts and bolts of running an international and global organization like the Pass It On Network. We live, as you all know, we don't have a membership fee. We didn't start off that way, and we haven't opted for membership fees per se. So we live on donations. And in 2024, we got $2,385 in donations, including one angel donator who contributed a large part, 1,500, and we spent $2,420. And I'm a bit apprehensive about the year ahead because all the service providers are increasing their tariffs. For example, Aweber just doubled their tariff from December to January. So what we were paying 16 for, it's now increased to 30. So if everybody starts doing that, we're really going to have a bit of difficulty. So we need to get in more donations to keep ourselves going. we all can donate, and we would really like you to think about giving us a donation from time to time. The regular monthly donation is obviously the best one if possible, but we did want to just let you know that nothing runs on thin air, and we do need to have money to keep ourselves going on the basics. We really run things on a shoestring, but the Zoom account and the internet account and the security accounts and all those have to be met. So that is, in a nutshell, where we're at this point in time. So Osnat, I'm now a little bit hoarse, so I'm going to hand it back to you.
You've been talking now and taking us through this year. When I looked at that presentation on paper, it was impressive. But now looking at it again and hearing it, Pass It On Network is really bringing a lot of quality content to people. And the proof is that so many of us are coming here every month and nobody is forcing us to. So what we're going to do today, the next thing we're going to do is what we do every single month. We're going to go to 12 minutes of small breakout rooms. And the reason we do it is to allow us in small groups to talk about what we've just seen and to try to let it sink in. So when we come back to the big room and start a conversation of what do we want Pass It On Network to be and what do we want it to do for us and by us in 2025 is going to be a little bit more crystallized. So I'm going to, so you please think about it while we're setting up the breakout rooms. Welcome back. Hopefully you had as good conversation as Verna and I had here. This is the time to introduce your thoughts. Verna was saying something like, oh, we need to inspire everybody and encourage everybody in other countries to do things that we see happening, for example, in South Africa or in Colorado or whatever. And I'm thinking, it's not so much, I cannot make you do anything. We're a network. We're here to connect everybody with everybody else, connect ideas, connect people. The thing that Pass It On Network strength is, what its strength is the opportunity of recruiting. So if you have a project, you have here today 18 other people that you could recruit to your project and inspire it. This is my first idea of the year, and then we'll hear the other ideas that we are going to do. Maybe in 2-3 months, we're going to do a session where everybody who comes here with a project will give a pitch to everybody else who is here.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, great ideas don't always grow locally. This is why we're an international network. Great ideas grow everywhere. So if you can recruit, and you know, we also have a sign-up sheet that you can exchange your personal details and what you're interested in. Come and pitch for 10 minutes your idea and get people to join you. Would be
That's
great.
a great idea.
So I'm just filing the first idea. Who else has ideas? And Jackie, you raise your hand.
Yeah, Sylvia and I had a nice discussion, and the thing, it's so great to be on Pass It On Network, but to be very honest, I have no idea what so many of you are doing. And our suggestion would be, you have great programs, great speakers coming on, but maybe to take the beginning or the end of each session, that it's more like in the line of what you're saying, Osnat, is to have maybe 3 or 4 minutes, even if you have maybe 2 PowerPoints with bullets summarizing what you want to say, send it to you, that the people who are on every month can introduce themselves, because I have no idea what a lot of you are doing. And I think it would be really nice that you could then, you're putting in a plug too for the work you're doing in a very short way, but you might get people interested in what you're doing, and then you'd have a lot more networking within the group outside of this monthly meeting. It could develop into something. And it could be you present a project or whatever you present, but just so people know what you're doing a little bit. I think that would be good for all of us, actually. Maybe Laura and you know what people are doing, but
exactly.
Most of us, and Jan, but most of us don't.
Right, exactly.
It's so funny because yes, we know that Verna is in a community that is very active about aging, and that Jackie, you're doing something else, and Sylvia is doing something else. But yeah, you're so right. And we will try to find forum where a way to do it, that we can create a stronger connection among ourselves.
Yeah.
And Brigitte, what's on your mind?
A short presentation now, minutes at the beginning or the end of the session.
Could be.
Yeah.
Brigitte.
So our group was chatting and came up with two different things, actually. In the past 4 years, I've been involved in introducing a mental health practice from Brazil into the United States. And that could take hours to explain the challenges of that. But that being said, one of the things that we came up with, which I'd be happy to lead and co-facilitate, was the intersection of older adults and mental health. And some of it came from my challenges that I have experienced in introducing something that is very well accepted in Europe, and the challenges here, but also how older adults can be leveraged, their human capital, to participate in the mental health and community health of where they live. And then the other thing we talked about was being able to access and use technology in resource-constrained communities. And that was something Adele might be able to contribute to, she shared.
Wow.
Yeah, excellent topics. Brigitte, I'm going to contact you separately about the mental health. It's something that we have not tackled because we don't have the qualifications for this, but it would be good to bring that expertise in, and I suspect it's going to draw quite a lot of interest. Same thing with the access to tech, and we'll find a place for that too. And Tom.
Thank you, Osnet. I mentioned in our group to Moira the brief discussion you and I had about using the Substack application to create a newsletter which would build on what you just mentioned, and perhaps not changing, but expanding the frequency from the single monthly meeting of 50/50, perhaps to a bi-monthly. Well, if you were to explore development of the newsletter on Substack, and that's easy and free and so forth, that could allow people not only to get more frequent communications, because that's an ongoing, essentially almost like a blog, or it can be, and would also allow people to be invited to contribute, because the subscribers can then contribute. So that could be just an ongoing communication mechanism.
Yeah, and thank you, Tom. This is it's definitely a conversation you and I had. It's another way to let people, in a 1,000 words, people from our community to introduce themselves in a very indelible way, because it's there forever, and we can start featuring it, cross-link it between the Gazette and the and Substack, and maybe some other ways.
And Cynthia, are you online now? Can you just share the Qatar story? No, she's not.
I don't
yes,
see
I am.
Good.
Can you hear? Okay. I was saying that something for Pass It On this year would be to build, to ensure for the Second World Summit, Second World Assembly on social development that will take place November 4 to 6 in Qatar, Doha, Qatar. And that I want to ensure that older persons are represented at the meeting, but also to have input. And some input is beginning prior to the February meeting on the Commission of Social Development at the UN. But I think any and all, and if we have Pass It On members in that area who might be able to be called upon for being spokespersons, representing various concerns so that older persons are not left out as we were in the pack for the future.
Meeting here, so if you cover it, please.
Cynthia, could you please put in chat a little bit more about this, or if you want, just send us an email with specifically what you're looking for, so we can frame it in a way that is a request and put it in the highlights that follow as the follow-up of this session.
Yes, I will do that.
And
Thank you.
Cynthia, if
Thank
you're
you.
traveling, it's Kathy. If you're traveling, I have that from our stakeholder group on aging meetings. I have the information on the date, the UN link and all that. And Asnet, I can just
Oh.
put that in my notes that I'll send you today.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you very
That's
much.
great. Thank you, Kathy. Wonderful.
Catherine is just amazing.
We're strong together. Mary Jo, I think you had your hand up or wanted to
No.
say something. No?
Actually, can you hear me?
Yes?
Oh, great. I wasn't sure if I'd muted myself. I'm on my darn phone. I just put a note in the chat. In my little group, we talked about how Pass It On Network can be supported financially. And I laughed to myself and with my group members because I've been contributing to Pass It On Network. And I've always felt it was very little considering how wonderful the organization is. And now that I've learned what you got last year in total, I realize what a big deal my small amount is. I really think we should all be contributing to this organization, but I think it would be good if you made some suggestions. Like this is an amount that could make this difference, you know, those basic guidelines. Because, you know, it's interesting. I guess I didn't think I was that unique in contributing.
Good point. Very
That's
good
all.
point.
Thank you. Thank you for saying this. Thank you for saying this. I suppose we can do a 30 days challenge or something like that.
I think just asking.
Yes, yes. It's so hard to ask. It's so hard to
It's-
ask for money. We feel that that it's so easy to be generous about giving, and we feel, oh, people will know. People will know. And I think it's not. It's not that that people don't care. It's just not. I don't know.
It's not top of mind unless you ask. And if
Yeah.
everybody were to contribute $20 a month, it could really make a difference in in the organization. So just saying, I come from, you know, everybody, probably many people on this call have fundraising development backgrounds. I do. And you just have to ask and say, what's it worth to me? And for sure, this is worth to me at least $200 a year. So, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Passionate.
Yeah.
And I think Carol wants to say a word.
Yeah.
Carol?
I like that idea, and certainly I feel very guilty because I don't think I've donated anything since I visited Maura in Paris several years ago. But what I would suggest is a membership fee. You can donate if you want $20 a month, but let's come up with an idea for a yearly membership fee. And I would suggest, well, I don't know the income of all of our members, but for some it might be more limited. So I would suggest at least $50 a year for membership.
Yeah.
Would that be excessive? Anyone have related ideas?
The only thing, Carol, is that there's some, for memberships, there's some legal twists there.
Oh, are
Yep.
there?
For donations, there aren't.
Yep. Right.
So we have looked at this before, and it was just too complicated for what we know how to do and what we can afford to, what kind of help we will need to manage that.
Oh, I see.
It's an administrative challenge to do memberships.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
So,
could we
you know-
call it something else then?
Donations,
Pardon?
donations,
Yeah.
no
Um,
strings donations.
Yeah, something like that. And it's a standard fee, and then you can go up above.
Yeah, well, good idea. I think that there are many, these are nice and different perspectives on the same thing, and I think we can probably leverage all of them.
Yeah. And it should begin at the new year, right now.
Yeah, well, everybody, Carol already sent us on the guilt trip. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Canada is in a bad way right now, but some of us are still surviving.
Verna, you were in my breakout room and you had some thoughts.
Right. One of the issues that's becoming it's coming to the fore, it's already here, is longevity. And I just did a presentation to my community, and they were just dazed when I told them that, you know, assuming they live a long and healthy life, their grandchildren will live to 100 and older. And that people are beginning to talk to teachers and parents about how does one discuss this with children. And one of the issues that's come up is that we as elders have a great deal of wisdom and experience, and we're healthy and intelligent, and we can contribute to problem solving, social problem solving, and talking about the lifespan, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're going to start organizing in our community to really empowering each other, and instead of just seeing us as the gray tsunami or some other negative thing that they talk about for our age group, to really start talking about how do we organize, become visible, become social problem solvers. And I think that's a really important role for us to start taking on.
Yep.
Excellent.
And Verna, when it comes to Passaton Network, how do you see it connected? What could be the contribution of Passaton
The first thing is awareness. I think that this is really starting to hit home. Before it was kind of fantasy. It isn't anymore. And even the group I was talking to, there are people in that room that would probably live to 100. So yeah, I think awareness is the first thing. And you know, just educate ourselves. There's a lot of excellent reading. Stanford University's been doing longevity research for a long time. And yeah, maybe have a speaker come in. But it's here. It's here.
Mhm.
We can't ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
Sylvia, I'm sorry, Moira.
No, sorry. I was just going to mention that in Old Up in France, they're talking about training themselves as influencers.
Ah,
Just that
Ah.
that whole notion, and I think that is extremely interesting because it goes in the direction of what you're saying, and it adds strength and empowerment to older people. If you get
Yes.
trained in that thing, and it can be an influencer, it doesn't have to be on Twitter or something like that. You're an
No.
influencer whenever you're in front of anybody, however small that audience might be, you're influencing. And I think that the more people can be aware of that, the better it is for all. So that could be a very interesting thing for Passaton Network to explore.
Well, I think you're doing that all along. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
but
are
maybe
influencers.
a little bit,
Yeah.
I don't know, formalized. I think Sylvia had her hand up at some stage, didn't she?
Yeah, Sylvia.
Yes. Coming back to these donations okay, you understood me.
Yeah.
Something I would consider is contributions and offering the opportunities to contribute to maintain the Pasiton network financially.
Yeah.
And what is important, very important, at least for me, when we have a network which is all around the world with so many different countries where differences in income
That's right.
are very different. It is not the same being in South Africa or being in Switzerland. You know about that. Even if we consider where individuals are members or participating and not countries, it's about the individual's status, financial status. So a formula to find out of this would be, whatever the number, desirable contribution or appropriate, whatever, a reference number, and then consider your own situation and according to that, contribute. That would, for me at least, be very respectful to the individual's situation and also to the value of Pasiton network. Because what we were talking with, Jackie, is that more and more Pasiton network is maturing in the value it is offering. And all of us, we are here today because of that. So something like that, and that can be a donation, but it is more a contribution through donation, which is a bit different. You know, a tribute is something you give because you value it. Donation is just giving. Perhaps it has not this step. It could be, or perhaps not. So that's what I wanted to share. I'm always so grateful for the opportunity to be here and to listen and learn and all of that. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Sylvia, because you just demonstrated how the choice of words can change the relationships. And I think I'm definitely going to use contribution instead of donation.
And I'd just like to welcome Jan, who's just joined us. Jan, welcome to you.
Welcome,
And
Jan.
Sheila's wanting to.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sheila was welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I've been doing a film festival on aging since 2012. And our next film festival, which is online, we'll be doing it February 14th to the 23rd. So right now, I have to admit it would be difficult for me to put in the information. So what I did was just put in my email address.
Good.
And then from there, I'll find a way to send you the information or just ask me for it.
Yeah.
Good.
It's
Thank
great.
you, Sheila. Sheila, we're going to
put it in the last Gazette.
Yeah, it was in the last Gazette, and it will also be in the
Oh,
documentation
good.
that we send after today's session.
Oh, good.
Put it in the chat too. I put the link in the chat.
And in the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bridget.
Oh, okay.
What else should Pasiton Network do, be, share in 2025? Please inspire us.
I'd love to hear from Nesta. Nesta in Zimbabwe, who's our regional leader
I
for
was
the
actually in
network.
the, thank you, Moira. I was actually in the group which suggested mental health in older adults. But and then the other one was on the tech and older adults as well. But I was just thinking in terms of the issue of recruitment or expanding the organization. The IFA conference in September in South Africa is a global conference, and much as Southern Africa is going to be presenting Pass It On Network, would it not be ideal to also have a global presence there, so that it is not limited to Southern African
Right.
members of
Mhm.
Pass It On Network? And then the second point is I agree with the issue about whether or not it should be a donation or a contribution, because I think we've already discussed this, Moira, in the Southern African group. I think we need to be clearer on a website as to what we are offering. If we start saying that we need membership fees, and I know you said membership
Yeah, you
fees are
can't
not
use that.
being discussed, but I think we need to be very clear on the website. What are we offering for the wider audience? And as has been mentioned earlier by somebody else, I think we still need to work out who's doing what. And that's probably where the motivation will be to contribute.
Can you say more about who's doing what?
There was a mention earlier. Somebody said that we've started this particular session, and people don't really know what others are doing. And I'm thinking that on the website, if it was clearer as to who's doing what, that is what will probably motivate me to contribute. That's just an assumption. That since I'm also a member of PION, all I'm saying is that on the website, it will be good to be clearer about membership and who's providing what and how can I connect. For example, the discussion we've just had, I picked up that somebody is dealing with mental health, which I would not have picked up from the website, for example.
Okay, you'll see we have, by the way, we have, and I'll find it in the next few minutes. We have a link to a sheet where any of you can add their own name, the areas that they're interested in, and how to connect with you. And this is another element that we added a few months ago because people asked exactly the same question. So just look for it in the highlight document we're going to send afterwards. Catherine and then Tom.
Sure, very briefly. I mean, we're having the same kind of conversation with two groups I'm part of, and they're also volunteers, which means limited resources. One's the Stakeholder Group on Aging, which was created really initially to address issues here in New York at the UN in July at the high-level political forum, but because of the Sustainable Development Goals, it's really could be global. But are we advocates of specific policies, or are we sort of conveners, as you're talking about, Asnet, of collective wisdom? But that's a group now that I'm going to suggest get in touch with this group. The other one I'm part of is GAP, the General Assembly of Partners, Older Persons, and that was created initially to influence the policies at the UN Habitat Urban Agenda, which we did only by doing this kind of organizing. But it's difficult because, as you suggest, Nesta, what do you offer people? And the only thing that I have found leading co-chair of GAP Older Persons is exactly what you're talking about now, which is the only way to engage very busy people with equally important agendas that they're working on, either for pay or for volunteering, is to be able to share. And Richard and I just found out by being fortuitously in the same group that we share similar interests, but I wouldn't have known that except if we hadn't been together. So I'm endorsing effectively all the ideas that you're talking about, which is how to surface what we're doing in our own spheres that then might trigger an interest of getting together with other people. Thanks.
Excuse me. Asnat, don't we have another form, or you have, where we all put down what we do? And we have our emails on there too.
Yes, I just put it in the chat. So everybody, if you click on it, those who want to share their name and interests, that's a great place to connect to beyond those 12 minutes that we that we have here once a month, that you serendipitously meet Richard and Catherine in the same sphere.
I'd love to hear from Richard.
Just a brief comment. I don't know if people have heard of the Presencing Institute, which originates at MIT out of the Sloan School. And its mission is to lead transformation for social, ecological, and systemic regeneration. And it provides all kinds of tools, and I'm involved in several groups that have created networking. And it provides that both in terms of information as how to develop that, as well as the networking connection. And I'm about to send an email with the link to that website. And the theme is, you have to inform, you have to involve, and then action generates from that.
Yeah. Well said, Tom. I'm hearing throughout this conversation again and again and again that the value of connection, of small local connections, not big forums with somebody talking and everybody else is listening. Because if you look at the chat is very active. The chat has links and it has opinions and it has all these things that all of us want to share with others. And I'm wondering if we could have one of these 50-50s outside the 50-50 is kind of a habit for most of us, is to have just a whole session where we have just speed networking. You know, we go into small chat rooms and small breakout rooms for 10 minutes with another person or two, and just have a conversation, and then move to the next and move to the next. We can do 5 of those in 1 hour, and you can meet a whole lot of people and make more connections. Maybe we should do it once or twice a year.
If I could speak up, the very first 50-50 meeting we had was on the value of networking in September of whatever year that was.
3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can just say something, you know, Osnet, if we could work a little bit with Linda on this, because her subject next month is going to be on her flywheel and exactly how to collaborate and build local community. It would be a very nice kickoff to the next stage that we're busy developing right now.
Wow, can you imagine? We have exhausted our time here. There are a few things that we're actually 2 minutes over time. There are 2 things that I would like to ask you to pay attention to. This is like, we're going to close formally in a minute here. And one of them is to let us know in this survey form that I just put in put a link to it in the chat, your thoughts, your experience of today, the experience that you want to have. So this is one thing. The second thing is that next month we are going to, in our 50-50, which is going to be on February 10th, we're going to welcome here, as Moira just said, Linda Smith, who is a founding member also of Pass It On Network. She's a CEO of 50 Plus Skills and Refinement Network. And she's going to share with us how to create social innovation impact in small and large communities. And invitation is going to be in your mail in a few days, sometime next week, actually. We recorded, and we're going to record in the next 15 minutes too. And this recording will be, a link to it will be in the highlights document that will be sent to all of you toward the end of the week. Yeah, and maybe some of those other links that we have here in the chat. The chat is also going to be shared there. And I would like to pass it on back to Moira, just for a to bookend this conversation with a few words, and then we'll stay here for another 10 minutes or so to talk about anything you want.
Well, I feel very, very excited about the discussions that have come up, because there's so many concrete leads. And I look forward to putting them into action. And I think one of the ones that is so important is the one that Jackie brought up, and that is to get to know each other. And then, Osnat, you followed up on that and said we could maybe have some speed dating, that kind of thing, a whole 50-50 session where we all get to know each other a little bit better. And I think that would be absolutely wonderful, and it would generate a whole new energy and dynamism in the Pass It On network. So once again, you know, I'm so happy that Jan is here, because Jan taught me and founded Pass It On network on the whole notion of building on our own strengths. And that's what we're all about. And if we can just harness those strengths and bring them together, not individually because we're separately and we're all around the world, but we can bring them to life in our own areas and our own communities. That's exactly what the Pass It On network was set up to do, to bring ourselves, to help ourselves and our families and our communities at this time in history, which is such a vital stage. You know, I think we all feel that. We're all living through something that's, I don't know when it's going to stop, but I think at the moment we all have this feeling that life is just going so fast and everything is changing so quickly, and that we sometimes losing the pedal. But together we can be strong. And that's what I feel about this session. It's been absolutely wonderful, and thank you so much for being here and following the Pass It On network and making the Pass It On network what it is today. Growing and stretching. And I'm so pleased that Jan's here as well. Thank you, Osnat, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. This is our formal ending of the session, and now we're going to leave the microphone and the session open for another 10 minutes for anything you want to say.
Can I just make a comment, and then I have to leave? Is the whole thing of the speed dating is that the people you interact with, you have personal conversations, which is good, but we all don't get to know it. And there might be interesting points that if you do it on a single basis, I think everyone gets to hear what you have to say, and not just how it develops with specific interactions. So I think a lot of information is going to get lost with that. That's just my opinion. Sorry.
Yeah, you know, actually, when the notes for me that I wrote here is that we have two types of sessions. One that we have 5 or 6 pitches, as I call them, and the other one that is speed dating. Both of them are valuable, because if you have an idea that you want to pitch, the person you just speed dated with, you already created a personal connection, and they're going to be there when you're going to speak. So, or create some other kind of connections. So that there's value for both of them. And we have 12 months that we can choose from. Great idea.
Okay.
So what we're hearing as well, Osnat, is that maybe we don't need every single Pass It On 50-50 to have a speaker.
Yeah.
We speakers ourselves.
Multiple speakers.
Exactly. So we can just concentrate on hearing our own voices and everybody getting to know us. as opposed to having, which is great to have speakers in. It's not one or other, but it'd be nice at least 3 or 4 times in a year just to hear ourselves and our own voices.
We're just about done. This is not even the beginning. It's an artificial beginning of a year, but it's a continuation of a great story. And we'll just continue to write the next chapter and the next chapter and the next chapter. And we'll see you here on the 10th of February with Linda Smith and The Flywheel. Thank you for being here.